a time in San Francisco where nudity was fine, but now it's like gone. It's like people are very uptight and also
Really?
yeah.
Has that?
Yeah.
Well, we're not. We go to the city a lot, but I've always, like, I remember one time, I forget what we were doing, and there was just like a naked man just walking down the street. I'm like, oh yeah.
All right. I'm going to do a quick intro and then we'll get officially started.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. Hey guys, this is Waiting to Dry. I'm Josh Lawyer.
I'm MJ.
And today we have Serge Gay Jr. Is that how you
Yes.
pronounce your full name?
Yeah.
So your dad's name is Serge as well?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I think he doesn't like the idea that I'm an artist and he's an artist and we have the same name. And when he wants to look up his name online and just see all my stuff. And if somebody's like searching for his art, he sees my art. They see,
Really?
like, my art, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't know you do this painting." He's like, "No, that's my son."
That's crazy.
That's cool. What kind of artwork does your dad do?
But he does more like pottery and sculpture, so it's completely opposite.
That's cool. So
yeah.
did you grow up in that kind of environment?
Yeah, because his dad is an artist too, and
Wow.
in his studio he works in Haiti, but my family's in Miami, so he travels back and forth. He has a pottery company where he manufacture like pots, pottery and stuff, and then also he does like sculptures for clients and stuff like that. And
Wow.
like from fountains to wall to standing sculptures. It goes between like figurative and just big giant pottery stuff. So
Well, I mean, he can't blame you at the end of the day, right? Because he's the one that named you.
yeah, and more of they thought it was gonna be a girl and they didn't have a name for me.
Oh, no.
And I think my godmother was in the room, in the delivery room, and it was like, why don't you just call him Serge and put Junior?
That's
Yeah,
that's
it was just lazy on their side.
wow. So what did your grandfather, what was his artwork?
The same as my dad, pottery.
Oh.
So when he passed away, my dad took over.
Oh, I see.
And my dad went to school for like architect and design. And I think just pottery just became something that he was just interested, because he did painting too and stuff like that. We have like this one painting at my mom and my parents' place in Miami, which is like incredible.
Wow.
But I don't think he used more of his painting technique in his sculptures and pottery, and he actually paints on and he does like masks and stuff like that, so he used that painting skills on that.
Wow, that's cool.
So cool. Did you ever live in Miami?
Yeah,
Like your
I
original
grew up in Miami.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was born in Miami.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What part?
But I don't know. I mean, it was little.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went back when I was like 15, but I don't know. I felt a little out of place.
Yeah, I still feel out of place every time I go back.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you miss it at all?
Yeah, sometimes, but I love visiting, and I go there all the time to see my family.
Nice.
But I'm always ready to leave.
Yeah.
It's more like because I love Miami Beach, and I love
Right.
the beaches there and seeing my family. But usually I just stay indoors more than anything.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There's a decent art scene right now there,
Now
right?
it is because of Art Basel.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the downtown area, there's a whole like what is it called? Wind World?
Oh yeah.
The whole art community. I can't remember.
Worst World.
Oh,
Or
it's like
something?
wind.
Worst World. Westworld? Yeah, I know that place.
Yeah.
In downtown, the whole art community is just blooming. 'Cause I went
Is there art galleries popping up, or is it
Yeah.
mainly mural stuff?
both. Yeah.
Wow.
People all over the world come to see all the mural.
Right.
It'd be nice if it was there when you were there, right?
Oh yeah, it was, that area used to be really bad. I went to art school downtown, right next to it, and then a lot of like my classmates and stuff kind of all just left Florida, Miami, and so like it was just not. It was never like a big art community completely. So we all felt like we need to go somewhere else
So
for
you-
college and stuff.
So you went to San Francisco just to pursue art? Like
No, I
you
went
said?
to Detroit to pursue art. Yeah, I went
Oh.
to art school and CCS in Detroit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I knew at that time like I wanted to leave
For sure.
Miami right away. I wanted to be more of like a urban city and stuff like that, and completely
Right.
opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Florida always seems like a crazy state to me in general. There's always like the wildest things happening there.
Yeah,
We were talking about it the other day because you ever watch the show Atlanta?
yeah.
There's like this funny joke they do in it really quick where they say like, "Oh, beware of the Florida man." And
Yeah,
it's like, it's like, who's that? It's like, oh yeah, it's this mysterious character that'll like eat your face or something.
Yes. Was the
Well,
that's coming from the what was the Bath Thought guy?
Yeah.
That was in by the
Yeah.
freeway in Miami. It's like the little troll on the freeway who was eating faces.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the I don't know, because right after that, like right after we talked about it, I was trying to convince her to watch the show for the longest time, so we just started watching it, or I started watching it again with her, and then right after that on the news it was like Florida man did something crazy, and like he got him again, like the Bigfoot of Florida. But yeah, the one of the things I really like about your work is that you seem to have these narratives in your art that are very humanized, but they talk about whatever's going on, in like the big cities, and or like like it's not it's very evident that there's this crazy environment right now as far as socially with just this country in particular, and you definitely seem to talk about it in a way that is just really almost brutally honest and really done well, like paint wise, like it's an amazing piece of artwork. And what else was I gonna say? And just in a very, I don't know, smart way of doing it, I think is like the best way I can explain it. It's not it's done very beautifully, so it's hard to like fight that. You know what I mean? Like it's
I think most of the time I try not to go because sometimes it can come off really too dark, but I always see myself as being very dark inside, but and outside I'm always presented very in a light, happy way.
right.
And if it's a very dark subject matter, then I'll paint it very bright and
Right,
colorful and a little bit lighter because I don't want to make it too uncomfortable.
Right,
If the
for sure.
subject matter is too like dark and uncomfortable for people.
That's cool. How do you try to tackle the storyline? Do you?
It's usually just based off either my own experience or subject matter, or it's things I hear on the news or I see around, and something I'm just very passionate about. It's just everything is more like, I would say like it's more like a diary kind of thing of my
Right.
life that I want to present, and I have to let go because I use my art platform as my way of communicating those ideas.
Right. That's awesome.
More than anything else.
Yeah, I also noticed that a lot of like your paintings will have like palette shifts depending on like, there will have like one corner that's very green, and then you'll have like these bursts of like warm colors and cold colors. And
Yeah.
is that all like pretty
It's usually, it depends on the mood that I'm feeling, and especially growing up in Miami, it's tons of color and bright, and
Right.
and that's why most of my work tends to be that colorful because of that. And then being from Haiti, and then it's like I like plants and tropicalness, and that's like my calming point. And I think the dark part of me came from living in Detroit. And that's like the part where I became very political and everything, and just seeing a whole new different, because Miami is a bubble outside, even outside of Florida.
Right,
you have
for
Florida,
sure.
then you have like Miami.
Yeah.
And I was living in the bubble until I went to, even though I lived in New York before Miami, but I was a baby.
right.
seeing like the kind of like urban city of like Detroit kind of was like a big opening, like part
Well,
of me.
I really like one of the things, and you kind of see it now explaining, you're moving, but it's like industrial and plant-based and colorful, like you said.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of adding the plant work because I do that in my own work. And I love, like, I've come up with this concept where I want to play with like plants coming out of an area that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that juxtaposition.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
and I see it a lot in your work, like even this piece right here that we're looking at.
Yeah. So when did you move to Detroit?
It was in 2002, right after high school. So I went
Okay.
to college there at CCS.
How'd you like that?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
Probably I would say to everybody like the best experience as me as an artist too.
Uh-huh.
As a person, as an artist, like I learned so much. Just the environment, 'cause it was also an eye opener because I didn't know what I was to expect. Like,
Right.
never been to Detroit. My parents just like dropped me off, and they're like, "Whoa, what's wrong with this city?" And I was like, "I don't know." And it was like walking into like a war zone kind of thing.
Right,
It is
yeah.
better. It is now than what it was before. But
Yeah.
it was just like still, was just like, what happened? Just like learning the history of Detroit and
For
it's, like,
sure.
being a big part of American culture and
Yeah,
seeing
the
what happened.
automotive industry like just was born there and died there really harshly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that city really took a lot of damage from that.
Yeah, and it was still like they did the whole doing Halloween when they do like the burning. Every Halloween they do like a fire to burn like a abandoned house. And it was like a constant thing going on.
They actually do that?
I don't think they do it anymore. I haven't been in a while, but at the time when I was there, it was just like, okay, why is these burning houses?
Oh,
It's
wow.
crazy.
And it was just like all these things. I think there's still a lot of like anger in the city, and you can see like such a divide between like the poor black community, and then you just like 8 Mile is literally like the cross between like going from poverty poor to like, oh my god, it's like really expensive mansion suburbs, and just like, oh, Bloomingfield Hill, whoa, this is like a very big contrast. And that's why you hear a lot of stuff like when you hear where like Flint, Michigan and stuff like
Right.
that. It's like, okay, there is a divide in the city that is just need to be aware. And that's coming from Miami. You didn't see that kind of divide.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I lived in a city called East Palo Alto, and it's right next to Palo Alto.
Mm-hmm.
And it's same thing. There's a stream, and there is very much on one side of the stream there is as poor as it gets, and then on the other side there's literally like the richest people in the world live in Palo Alto and Atherton in that area, and it's like a stream cuts them off, and you're like, that's so weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's changing. A lot of people are actually probably not too happy about it because it is. People are pushing their way into East Palo Alto and kind of moving in there because it's
Everything
so
is
cheap.
getting expensive.
Yeah.
everywhere. So yeah.
So a lot of people are getting booted out. So I don't know. It's weird. I don't know how to fix that. But
It's
yeah.
it tends to be like everywhere you go. Even for Miami, it is like a divide, but wasn't as drastic as I saw being in Detroit. And I think that was like the idea of like why I was so drawn to knowing the history of and why things were the way it was.
Right.
And from that I will incorporate and put it into my art.
So, that's cool. So did you come from Detroit to the Bay Area?
Yeah.
Okay. So what year was that?
I moved in 2007.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so because the like economic crash was
2008.
8. So man, it must have gotten really dark in Detroit right around that time too. Because I'm assuming if
That's when like Detroit went bankrupt.
I
like
remember
2
that.
years after or something.
Like the actual city did.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's
But
crazy.
Detroit was always pretty bad.
Right. For sure.
It's like it was like one of those experiences where I was just like, at one point I was like, I love the city so much for where it was, and I wanted to like stay, and I stayed like a year after, but that's due to different circumstances.
Right.
And at a certain point, I was being like an artist. I was showing shows and stuff like that, and then it's just like, okay, I don't feel like my career can go further because the city wasn't ready for this kind of art culture at the time. And I remember a couple of galleries were closing that I used to show, and just like, it kind of stops you. It's time for me to kind of leave.
Right.
How do you feel about it now in San Francisco? Because it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
Like galleries are closing.
They're all moving to LA,
Yeah.
or most artists are leaving, and so it's just like, okay. And I've thought about it like all the time. It's just like, what should I be even showing in San Francisco? Because the appreciation for artists is like kind of going away, but at the same time I was like, I'm not gonna be pushed away kind of thing.
Right.
Like, why not, at least for people in the tech industry who don't know anything about art, let me be here to kind of showcase,
For sure.
Yeah.
instead for running away kind of thing.
You
Right.
see it in Detroit as well. Like I remember seeing a Vice thing recently where the Detroit, the community that stayed, they like they're pushing Detroit forward, and they're trying to make it, better. And they're like, I'm not going to give up on this. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I really admire that.
Yeah, I hope they
Aspect
do,
of it.
because I always saw it as being like the new art mecca.
For sure.
And people all over from Europe to all over the world come to Detroit to play in this like art playground.
Oh, do they?
And then you can see like a combination of the Detroiters kind of don't like it. It's like, who are
Right.
these people coming in? And at the same time, they want like the economy to kind of grow and help.
Right. Yeah. It's complicated for sure.
Yeah.
So the art world brought you, like the art opportunity, is that what brought you to San Francisco?
I came here for, when I was in school, they brought me for Icon illustration conference in San Francisco when they were here.
Okay.
And I knew nothing about really San Francisco. I visited LA and I was like, it wasn't for me. And then, I came here for Icon, and I was just like, oh my God, I love the city.
Yeah.
Right.
And at the time, I wasn't still thinking I wanted to move back to New York. I was just like, I want to make it as an artist, a painter
Right.
in New York, and that's where you automatically go to.
Right. It's one of the meccas.
Yeah. And also being like close to home and on the
Right.
East Coast and stuff like that. And then I got an offer to do an internship at Disney in LA doing graphic design and stuff like that straight from school. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. I'm prepared. I was
For sure.
preparing to go to LA and everything. And all of a sudden they just dropped me. And that's a whole nother story.
Oh, wow.
And I thought I was ready to I was looking for apartments and stuff like that. I was like, it was like an internship, but we were just like, you're also gonna be hired as like a job like right after the internship. They're like, we love
Right.
your work. It's like, cool, okay, I'm making it. And then all of a sudden that failed, and I was like, okay, let me stay in Detroit for a while.
Ouch.
And then I was just like, at a certain point, I think it was like that last winter, and I was like, I need to go.
Right.
And New York was not even an option anymore, because I was like, I don't want to see snow ever. I want to experience
I know the feeling.
yeah. And then one of my good friend had moved to Oakland, and I just like dropped everything and just been like, can I stay with you until I find a job? I had like a month to find a job. And I remember the same thing, like my first car accident was in the snow. I slid in Detroit. And that was like the week before I was planning to come here to look for a job. It was like that past. That's when I was like, I'm done with snow.
Right, for sure.
I left my car, put it in the shop, and took a plane. Had a month, found like a graphic design job, working at like a t-shirt graphic design job in Emeryville near Oakland, West Oakland. And flew back, got my car after it was done, like fixed, and then took all my stuff and put it in the car and drove all the way to San Francisco to start something here.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you've been here ever since. So
Yeah.
that's what? Almost 10
Like
years?
11 years.
11 years?
Yeah.
Wow. Nice. How have you liked it so far?
Oh yeah, it's becoming home base
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it's something about Northern California in general I really love.
Yeah.
Just being outdoors, and the city is progressive as much as like still kind of this weird bubble that you can love or hate.
Right.
Right.
It's more about like the city is beautiful than the people.
Right.
Well, it also like I think San Francisco has like the nicest people, and the Bay Area has one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
But it's just like overall, it's just like, yeah, if I do want to see snow, Tahoe's right there. If I want to go somewhere warmer or see like beaches, go south or something.
Right,
So
that's
many
true.
things to do in such a small
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
of this area.
I mean, it must have been difficult going from Miami to like somewhere where it's just snowing and just like the intense temperature change as well.
No, I think
like-
this is like the perfect for me because
Right.
like, yeah,
It's like-
I when I go back to Miami, I'm just like, oh my God, this is too hot. And then like seeing snow, and especially like in Michigan is like Chicago where Michigan Lake is like you get that cold front from the lake that is just unbearable. So I don't miss that, and San Francisco is that perfect balance between
Yeah.
the two.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So now that you've been in the city and you've just been painting like I mean I'm assuming like crazy because your artwork is like jam packed with imagery and symbolism and all this, and you squeeze a ton into your artwork.
Yeah, I have a lot to say.
How big
My
do you
name
work?
is Serge, and I have a lot to say. I wish I could go bigger, but my studio is not that big. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, one of those pieces are about like 48 by 36.
Yeah.
That's usually the comfortable size,
Right.
where I can just go big but not too
Right.
small.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would assume you'd have to be a decent size to pack in all that detail.
Yeah, it's like what if it can't fit in my car.
Right.
It's not gonna
that
get any
makes
bigger.
sense. Yeah.
But the new
Just like-
stuff I'm doing now is just like I'm doing bigger size, but just like break the canvases into like
segments.
multiples. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
a
for
good
the
move.
next show, that's what I'm doing.
That's
now.
cool.
Yeah.
That's gonna be awesome. So your work is like, since you're kind of going to this segment thing, how are you going to do that? Is it going to be all like when you put it together, is it going to be like a puzzle where everything fits in, or are they all going to be kind of
Yeah. Just
their own piece?
No, all put together.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just if it's like just 3 canvases together, it's just one piece. It's
I
just
see.
easier to
Yeah,
move.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
more than anything.
And so now you're working on this solo show for Art Attack.
Yeah.
So with that, are you just starting to work on pieces for that?
No, I actually since last year,
Oh.
I didn't know where I was gonna send it, but I just know it's one of those things like I have so many ideas that
Right.
I need to just get it out right now,
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat.
and it's just getting it all
Oh, so you-
pumped out. So it just happened to be like a perfect timing.
Right.
too.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm kind of almost exactly where you're at. I have these ideas and I don't have a space to put them, but I'm just like, I almost want it that way so that I don't feel rushed by the time.
Yeah.
So I can just figure out these pieces, make sure I do them correctly, and then when I get closer to the end, maybe find someone that wants to put them in. I mean, I don't think that's the hardest thing, is to, find a place that'll throw your art up on their
Yeah.
walls, but the making sure I'm realizing that trying to make sure that the time that I have and the stress of making the deadline isn't present to create artwork that I'm going to be happy with. So
Yeah, that used to be what I didn't like about doing a lot of shows, because I always been rushed and I never can show my full potential.
right. Yeah.
And that's why I was just like, okay, without a show, let me just start pumping work.
Yeah.
And it never worked out that way, because every time I'm like, okay, now I'm just going to keep doing work, and then all of a sudden like a show pops, I'm like, oh, here comes the deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love deadlines, and that actually keeps me like going.
Right.
It does, forces you, like you said, like to not take your time on
Right.
a piece as much as you want to.
For
kind of
sure.
thing.
Yeah, I think that for me at least right now, that's becoming like really important, at least to try it out, to see if by not doing it the same way I've been doing it forever, that if my art if I'll allow myself that time and to be happy with every piece. Because usually when I do a group of work, there's like 2 pieces I'm happy with, and then 4 pieces that I'm like, I wish I had like a couple more days on just each of them, or just to like really fine tune it, or a week on each of them. And I think I need to figure out if it's worth it, if the deadline really pushes me, and so for you, did you notice that helped a lot with your consistency of
it helps, because it's weird, because the pieces where I don't have a deadline, I always start with a piece, and I take my time without anything, and that's going to be like the guideline to what the whole solo show is going to be.
Right.
And that's usually the piece that nobody it never sells. But when like the one that I do like the night before the show, or Crunch and I'm past, they love those.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, maybe I should not take my time or something like that.
I know.
I think that's always our issue too. Like the pieces that we connect with the most don't always resonate with like your audience for whatever reason. It's like, oh, this one's awesome, and people are like, but I like this one. Really?
Sometimes I can kind of, because I think what happens is, as artists, we kind of know what looks good. And so when it's crunch time, we just do, like, we pull back and just go to, like, the easier tricks, I'll just do this to make it look good. And then people go crazy for that. And you're like, I know it's like a pop song, like, they have the setup. They just knock it down now. But then you might have, like, other musicians who try to push the envelope, and unless you're,
it's like, that one's not catchy.
Yeah.
It's like, what? This one means more.
Yeah, exactly. Like you see, they put effort into it, but it doesn't have a catchy hook, and you're like, all right, well, I don't know.
I think actually what I was saying before, like every piece that is the guideline that I do first, I think I still have all of those first ones.
Oh, really?
It'd be interesting to do a show based off of
just
that.
those.
Yeah, because it would be. What do you use? What's your medium?
Acrylic.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. You could see it, and it's. It's done.
I wish I can paint with oil, because I get really sick. I get migraines by the fumes and stuff.
Oh wow.
And it's been like years since, and I love painting with oil.
Wow, that sucks.
But it's just like, I'm okay. Like most of the time, people can't really tell the difference with some of my paintings.
For sure.
And I try to paint as much as like if I was painting with oils. But I'm okay. I love acrylic paint.
Yeah.
I paint really quick, and I like it to dry as fast as possible.
Right.
So that's the plus, where I'm just like, okay, I'm all right with it.
Yeah, your work is already good. It doesn't take away from it that it's acrylic or anything like that.
I used to always think that it was like the biggest part that maybe people didn't like understand or appreciate as much, because it wasn't oil.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I don't know. Some people are weird. I had a friend ask that about my work. They were like, oh, because I just started painting in oil a year ago, and they were like, oh, did you switch so that people will pay more for your work? And I'm like, no, I have these ideas, and I can't execute them in the style I've been doing it in. And so oil's going to help me knock that out. And so
that's the only reason. That mentality. It's just like, it's not a true or painting, or it's not as rich if it was not in oil. It's like, are you serious?
Yeah. You know what's weird is I sell worse now that I'm in oil. It's like people don't like my work as much, it seems like.
Does it? Just because does it change the style when you paint with oil?
Yeah. So the style definitely changed with oil, because I was doing a mixed medium thing, and it just did not. It wouldn't translate the style, so I had to just figure things out. It was a weird jump for me, where I was like, well, let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
But my style was limiting what I can do, so I had to just forfeit it and just say we're starting from scratch. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with where I'm going, so that's all that really matters.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
When you start a solo show, your work is so narrative. Are you going with like a whole theme for the entire show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially, I think I've finally found my groove, which is gonna be on this solo show where I'm starting to find more of like cohesiveness. Because sometimes I always just see myself all over the place because I was always that person. I didn't like to have a style, which is which is every like what they teach you
Right.
from art school and being an artist and branding yourself. And people can see like my last show can be like, hey, we love this. Yeah, we should continue. I'm like, great. And I do completely opposite. And they're like, what is this? And it's been like that since like school.
Right.
Like college, people kind of like teachers didn't like me in that aspect where
Really?
they were like, oh, we love you what you do in this class. We can't wait for you to see what you do in our class. I'm like, nope, I'm going to do something else. Because that's the way of how I grow to become a better artist.
Right.
I'm not going
Right.
to be the same
Right.
artist
For sure.
I was before. And I think the series I'm doing now, where it's combining everything I was trying to figure out and within the past shows, and then now finding like a completely cohesiveness to it. Because a lot of times like people don't know my art.
Right.
Can point my art, that's a Serge painting or something like that. And so like I'm from the last solo show with Spoke Art last year. That was the first time I was like, okay, I kind of really found myself after all these years.
That's awesome.
Because I always, like how I said, it was always like going from this to this to this. That this show right now that I'm working on is putting everything together finally in the package.
Right.
That I could be like, okay, now I can brand myself in that aspect.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's funny because the other style I did before the oil painting, that's kind of how I felt right before I was like, now I'm bored.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I got to switch it up. So in a way, I'm like, that's awesome. But I'm like, uh-oh, hopefully you don't get the same mind. Well, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, it's good to figure out how to, it's cool that you were almost the opposite of me. I was trying to focus in on a style, and then I got locked into it. I'm like, I need to break free. Where you were like almost like the opposite, where you were going.
And it's just this rule that they put against us as artists, like where you can't just be like, yeah, I want to switch it up. And I think you're losing clientele, but are you growing as an artist?
Right, for sure.
And that's the reason why I couldn't like, and especially in the series when I'm doing a show, it's like storytelling. Like I know that story's already been told in my book, and I'm ready to move to something else. I've moved on from this. But it's just like, for me, it's just like, it's like one of those things, like as an artist and you're telling your story, it hurts so much. Like I gotta let it out in this format and this painting style, whatever. And then after that, I'm like, okay, I'm done. But I don't want to revisit that.
Right.
I've moved on to something else.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
like for this new solo show, is all black and white and one color.
Oh, really?
Comparing, that's why I'm like, I found myself, but I'm like, now like finding the things that works well in the stage of mind I am now.
Right.
And it's like the same thing. It's a lot of flora and the leaves, but they're in black and white.
That's crazy. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Is it challenging to do that because your stuff is so colorful? If I were to do something like that, I feel like I would get almost frustrated.
Yeah, it's very challenging, but it's also very calming because
Really?
like now I can just, most of the time, like when you have like so many colors, you're throwing colors, it's like a comfort zone, and it's like it feels like I'm used to it, and it's like an easier approach. But when you play in black and white, and I'm just using like I think yellow, then you're like very concentrating, and you're like just it's very challenging in a way
Right.
that you're just like not thinking color. I don't know. Yeah.
No,
like how
I
you
mean, I
said,
feel
it's
like
the
it would.
opposite.
Right. It's like when I draw, like I'm a painter. I find it challenging to sit down and draw something. So just working black and white just in my sketchbook with just graphite is hard.
Yeah.
So it's probably similar. Like if you sit down and just say I'm going to use black and white, that would be very difficult for me to do. And it'd be like I'm trying to train myself
Right.
to see a certain way.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me.
For sure. Yeah, I remember. You know the artist Andrew Hamm at all?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's very talented with color, and I heard him do an interview where he talked about.
Oh yeah.
He talked about he wonders because he always gets complimented on his colors, and I feel like you're also really talented with colors and bringing warmth and cold and all and playing with those color schemes. And he said that he wonders how his art would be, how people would feel about his art if he tried to mute the colors or didn't rely on the colors so hard. And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and that was with the last solo show I had where I was focusing on certain colors. And that was the first time. Usually I'd go full on color and stuff like that. And so that's why I was like the last show it was such a big growth because now I had more control and I need to like focus on certain things and play around with color.
Right.
And I think the last show was just like kind of like greens and yellows and then orange. That was like my main focus colors. And I made sure that was in every piece.
Right.
And that's the part of controlling where the subject matter is all over the place, but it's very targeted and certain, but I needed some kind of control in my piece.
I see.
And that's probably like the battle I had all these years. And then with this like new series, it's just like, okay, I got the control now.
Right. I see.
And now it's like a nice balance with the subject matter and the way it looks.
So
that I was searching for a long time.
So is there a reason why you choose these specific colors? Like in your last one,
with the last one or this one?
Or even when you figured it out, was there a reason why you chose those specific colors? Like,
it's going back to the whole like being like very dark and
I see.
being angry,
right?
And then like still keeping like now that I don't need to use the color method, like bright colors to create that kind of like make it a little more angelic and happiness for the viewers, and the fact that I am complete those two things, like I'm
right.
humble and nice, but deep inside I'm like an angry black guy. Don't want to scare too many people, but just like let me take exactly what coming from Detroit, seeing like because Detroit was the part that made me kind of darker and start using dark colors and
wow, that's crazy. So the environment really does like affect you.
Definitely. And winter times are a little depressing.
For sure, that makes
seeing
sense.
gray clouds like the majority, gray skies for the majority of the year.
Yeah. I mean, there is like whenever you do like your Instagram, I don't know if I've seen it recently, but I remember every once in a while I'd see like your Instagram story and you'd like pop up and start dancing or something like that. And I'm like, damn, he's having way more fun than I'm having.
That's usually the studio is like, I'm just like blasting music or something. I just stop and dance.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that's because that's why I used to do it in Miami all the time. It's in art school. It's just like, I used to be with a group of friends that we just like paint together and then we'd stop and dance, and that's how it always been. And Detroit was kind of not in a bad way, but it just made me like a little
more focused,
aware of things and the country and life and stuff like that. And so it brought me a more not everything is just bright, beautiful, bright, and
for sure.
Which I was saying, like living in the bubble of Miami, it's just like, okay, this is the rest of America kind of thing.
So you said your dad is Haitian?
Yeah.
Is your mother Haitian as well?
Yes, they're both Haitian American.
Did you grow up very like Haitian culture?
Yeah. Parties and because Miami is a big Haitian community.
That makes sense. It's pretty close, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's why people tend. Cause I was actually born in Haiti, and I moved to New York when I was 3.
Nice.
And so like most of my dad's family was in New York at the time. That's why we moved there. But it was like quick, like, oh, cold. Let's go to Miami. And it's also it was easier to like fly from Miami to Haiti.
So now that you're in the Bay Area, do you have like a Haitian food fix somewhere?
Yeah.
Where-
I remember, where is it, like at the Soma Street food place. So they had like a Haitian truck. I was like shocked. I was like, I like stopped everything I was doing. I was just like, I need to go get this Haitian food.
Right.
It wasn't the same,
For sure.
but it was something.
Right.
Right.
But I still look for anything like Jamaican food and stuff like
Right.
that. Any kind of.
There's a good Jamaican food place in East Palo Alto and San Jose. They're run by Jamaican, like a Jamaican lady and her husband, and they are insanely good. So I'm
I
assuming,
believe it is up here. Like I go to the one in Oakland, Kingston 11 or something.
I haven't been there.
But it's great. But actually, I haven't been to. I think I went for brunch, which I never thought Jamaican food and brunch would go well together. Where it's just like, oh, do you want to substitute that for like jerk chicken and like with avocados or like quinoa or something? I was like, okay. And I brought friends. I was so like, because most of them was like the first time having Jamaican food. I was like, oh no, this is not it.
So you haven't found a spot yet?
Not yet, but yeah, if anybody knows, I'm
A backyard.
keen. But mostly like Haitian food is not. And I have a cousins in Oakland, so they were like the Haitian community that I got to know and see. And
Is Haitian food pretty similar? Is it to Jamaican food? Is it like
no, it's more similar to Spanish, like Latin food.
Oh, really?
Like Cuban, because you have like a lot of like the rice and bean,
Right.
and, fried pork, a lot of fish.
Plantains.
Oh.
Yeah, we not like it's like more fried plantains with the green bananas. Not the
Sounds almost like Nicaraguan food.
Yeah.
She's Nicaraguan.
yeah,
Yeah.
and also it reminded me of a lot of like Brazilian
Yeah.
anything, because we don't do like jerk chicken or
Right.
curry chicken,
Right.
anything like those.
Right.
Not those kind of spices.
Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know that. Do you ever go back to Haiti?
I haven't been back since probably 15 or 13. Yeah.
Have you so we worked with an amazing model called Woodney. Was it last year or earlier this year?
Last year.
She's Haitian, and she's doing really well. She's like in LA, and she's like in a bunch of like music videos, like with G-Eazy, and just like
Nice.
going big, you know?
And she did like a Puma ad with Big Sean.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, nice.
She's doing really well for herself, but she's also like she has big dreams of like bringing all her success back to Haiti. Like she wants to go back to Haiti eventually once she's made her money and open up like a restaurant and like bring stuff back there. And I always thought that was great. And she's just like very passionate about bringing things back to Haiti because she's also like you said, somewhat angry with how people are dealing with what happened in Haiti and the lack of help. And she's just like she wants to bring back some good things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because Haiti's a really like poor country, right?
Yeah. Always been, and it's kind of sad even recently how it was being so progressed. The progression was happening, and then with the whole riot with the U.S. embassy kind of thing happening, and there was a lot of riots and burning, and just like it put the whole country back.
It's like a back pedal.
Yeah.
Huh. Dang.
And my dad was just opening a brand new like showroom that he bought next door, and he was gonna open a bakery and help out with the community. And now he can't anymore. And my mom is trying to convince him like maybe it's time to come to stay in Miami permanently, because things are now like with the business is now when the business was picking up,
Right.
the pottery business, and now it's going down again because of all the riots and stuff.
Right. That's tough.
Yeah, and I think that's like the same thing. And a lot of my paintings in the past was always about the beauty of Haiti, because they always had this idea of what Haiti was. They always saw the negative and all the bad part. And a lot of the paintings I would call like the beauty of Haiti.
Right.
It's just showcase like Haiti is more than all the things you would see in the media, and all the beauty of the country and the countryside.
Right.
And that was and it was for me too. It's just like as a kid, I always still hear a lot of the negative things, especially in Miami. It was just
Right.
like, and it was like for me painting those ideas, like what I saw and what I know is like I see more beauty than what you see, and so I will always paint like beauty of Haiti, the landscape.
That's awesome.
And that was my way to be like,
Right.
This
Not
country's
adding to
also
the
beautiful.
negativity.
Yeah.
yeah.
Adding to like the positive aspect.
Yeah.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because last year, I don't know if you guys heard about the fires that were happening in this area, like in Santa Rosa, just like, and
Well, you guys probably like saw the smoke.
Yeah.
It hit the city pretty hard last year, right?
Yeah, yeah. There was, I think, could we leave our windows open?
Right.
And I think there was like ash coming in through.
yeah.
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 But it's like, it was bad, but when on the news, people thought that the whole city was on fire.
Right.
Wow.
So it's like his mom
Yeah.
would call him because she's in, she was like staying in like East Palo Alto,
Not at the time. She was in San Mateo.
but she thought we were on fire, and it's like, no, we're okay.
My mom called me. It's like, is San Francisco's on fire? It's like, no, it's up north. They're evacuated, but we're fine up here.
Yeah.
But it's like, it was like over the media. It's like,
The
San
media-
Francisco's on fire. No, we're not.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what the media does. It's like the same thing with,
I think what they do is like the global media, they're like, no one knows where Santa Rosa is. So
Yeah.
they just attach San Francisco to let people understand kind of roughly where
It's like-
things are burning.
Yeah, it's like north of San Francisco. San Francisco.
yeah,
Exactly.
it is on fire.
But yeah, so I think we should transition to this painting that we're gonna talk about. That's yours. I tried to remember the title, but I totally blanking now. Do you remember the name of this one? We're both in the same boat.
Golden something.
Do you put a lot of thought into titling your artwork?
Yeah, I was gonna
Yes.
ask you that
Yes.
because there was a couple other titles. I'm forgetting all of them right now, but
But
I liked them all. I was like, oh, that's a good title. Oh, that's a good title. God,
what is the title?
if
Click on
float
that
over
one.
it,
It should be in the
it
bottom.
says
Yeah, Golden Age.
Golden Ages.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Even I think this one has a good one too.
Oh, yeah.
Less Than Human. And then what was the other one I liked a lot? God, I can't remember. It was like Wild Spirit or something like that.
I always have a hard time titling my stuff.
So this one's called, I mean,
If it comes like, I prefer if it just comes naturally. It just like pops in my head. And it was sometimes like I don't have a title for it, and I'm like hearing something, and it just something pops up. I'm like, oh, this is perfect for.
right. Or you have like a bunch of, sometimes I'll have like the overall idea, but there's no like few words that'll capture
Yeah.
the whole, that's the tricky part.
Yeah, especially if I'm doing like so many things in one. I'm
Yeah.
like, what words can capture all of this?
Yeah, and like a couple words. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember I had this painting. Because I'm half Islander and my dad's white. So
Where are you from?
Tonga, do you know Tonga at all? It's kind of like
Yeah,
Samoa.
yeah.
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 My mom's Tongan, and so so I was doing this painting that was supposed to be like, kind of just talking about being half white, half Tongan. You never kind of feel, and so I ended up titling it something that was like, they told me I was half, but I always felt whole because I grew up in the Tongan culture, but I was never treated as like a full Tongan by my cousins or whatever. But it ended up being like the longest title I've ever
Yeah.
done. It was just like, well, I don't know how to say that in 2 words. But But yeah, that's I don't know. That was just a random segue from titling paintings. But yeah, this one's called Golden Ages.
Yeah.
Right? And so the figure in it, there's like a main figure, and then there's like multiple other figures and animals and plants and pattern work and landscape. It's I mean, I don't think you didn't utilize one portion of that. Do you paint on wood or canvas?
Canvas. Yeah. Oh, a combination of both. But
this
mostly
one?
canvas. Yeah,
Okay.
that was canvas.
Okay. And yeah, so you pretty much utilized every square inch of this, and you see so there's this lady, this African American lady with teal hair, and she's drinking like a coffee, and it's like smoke is coming out, but it has like these African masks, and you have like these iconic images of like advertisement of, I don't know, Americana advertisement kind of.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if that was purposeful or not when I was looking at it. If you wanted to like juxtapose like this nativeness with like the stereotypical like all American, we smoke tobacco, like this almost like the 40s era imagery with and then there's like a jungle on your right. Where a villager is coming out, or like someone that's like tribal is coming out with 2 ox or cattle or something. Yeah, and I don't know. It's just so, and so this lady, there's like a tribal person coming out, and then this lady, she's dressed in like Western garb.
Yeah.
And drinking a coffee, but still like the smoke is tribal, and I don't know, it's so like intense with like how much you can try to like figure out from this painting. Do you ever, at your shows, do people just end up like staring at pieces forever?
Yeah, and that's like usually my number one goal, because I don't want nobody just walk by.
For sure.
That's true.
And I want to keep them interested.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, it's not just that, because I just have a lot of stories and I just throw everything in one.
Right. Yeah.
Do you kind of, when you're starting a painting, what's kind of your process? Do you draw this all out in like a thumbnail, or do you just like dive into this?
I just dive in.
That's awesome.
I have every single idea for paintings. I have all in my head, even like a year before. And I know exactly how it's going to look, every single like bit of it. And sometimes I do add on as I'm working,
right,
but I know what I want to say exactly.
Yeah.
It's usually trying to find like imagery. It takes a while than anything else.
That's what I was going to ask you. So you just go online and
Yeah.
kind of jigsaw little pieces to figure out what you want to. Okay.
If it's, I know it's just like I want the woman to be there sitting. I know how she's gonna look. I know what the background's gonna be, but I tend to not really know what everything's gonna be positioned. Sometimes I just like, I started with her, but I have no idea how I'm gonna lay out the background yet.
Right.
So I'll just paint her by herself. And
That's
then,
crazy.
And then I know I wanted the kind of forest jungle is gonna be on the right, so I start painting that.
Okay.
And I know I want an urban city. And then I'll come after, I don't know what, I'll go out and take a picture or find imagery.
And I remember when I asked you, we do this where we kind of like look at a painting and break it down. And you sent me this painting and you said like, this painting is probably what represents me the most.
Yeah.
And now that like we've talked, I kind of see that, and I'm wondering like how much, like, so the main figure, is that kind of a representation of you? In a way,
in a way, yes. And usually, I always do, and I always want to portray like natural Black women in art, and being not just the idea of like it's not something that you can't buy. Like a lot of what I noticed when I was in San Francisco, moving in San Francisco, and I used to use it as also an experiment where every time I do a Black figure in my painting, nobody's interested, or they see me, they categorize me in the category of a Black artist painting Black art. So, and then every time I would do another art, I just do white figures or especially in San Francisco during an Asian woman or something that's quick to sell. And so I was always seeing like, okay, I know what people want, but I'm not gonna target myself and put me in that kind of category. Like, this is what I should be painting. And I came in a very diverse community, so I'm not gonna always be that kind of artist where I'm not gonna just paint black figures, because my whole surrounding is a mixed culture, and I always want to put that in my art, where I want a mixed community of people represented in my art.
For sure.
And then at one point where I was just like, I think it was on one of my last show, where I wanted to paint a lot of black figures, because I wanted the idea of like having a person, which I was one of the paintings I saw was like a black figure and a white guy bought it, and that made me so happy, because it's like now I can see somebody just appreciating the art for what it is. And of course I'm a black artist, I'm painting black figures because this is my culture, but at the same time it should be appreciated all around, and people buying the artwork and not just being like, hey, I'm not interested in the art because it has black figures in it, and
just because it's a good painting.
And
so
that's why I like to kind of modelize this beautiful black woman.
That's awesome.
As a focal point. Just like, and that's like going back to like seeing like the Mona Lisa and how it's like an iconic imagery. And I always wanted to do that, to picture an iconic kind of imagery, but it's like a black woman to be appreciated, and especially in society where a lot of like dark-skinned black women is not appreciated as much. And it goes back to me, I'm always like seeing magazine and fashion magazine where you don't see that being as beautiful, and I want to kind of beautify that kind of imagery,
for sure,
more than anything. That's why I put that as the main focus.
Do you equally enjoy painting females to male, or females more interesting to you to paint?
I think before it was, and I think in my new series I'm painting more males now. But it's a combination. I think I'm still going back to making sure, at least like in the main series I just painted for my next show, was just like a black female, very tribal, and that's like the start off. And I think that's the same thing. It's just maybe being a mama's boy or something, and seeing like always idolizing a strong female, black female present at first, and then I'll just branch off to everything else. And that was like the first series too, of a series, and I just wanted like, it's almost like a comfort zone for me. It's just like, I got the lead. I would say like a black strong female is like the lead of everything else, and I can go on kind of thing.
That's awesome.
What's the because I am really drawn to this one, because I almost have that exact like cup painted. I use a lot of like cups and like teacups in my work, and I'm obsessed. I've tried to analyze why, and for me it's if I'm feeling anxious, I start shaking and I get very cold. So I like holding like warm drinks when I'm in an uncomfortable situation, and it's just kind of comforting to me and kind of like my home base. But I'm curious as to why you choose to have her holding a cup of coffee, and then I'm not sure if that's coffee in the top left as well.
Yeah, it's actually like a black tea. That was like how you pointed out. I wanted to do like the whole like being westernized and stuff like that. Is more so the story. I have to go back to why it kind of started, and I was actually at a coffee shop when this idea came, and I was sitting, and I was in San Francisco. It was like a midday, and I was just looking at my surroundings, and I was just like, God, life is so easy and so great for these people here. And then just like, and then that's one of the reason why I was just like, okay, I am a minority here. And I'm just staring at everybody. Everybody's happy. Most people are, I'm like, I was like also walking around, and I walked in Dolores Park, and I'm just like, oh, look at all these happy people. Like, are they supposed to be at work? And then like the one time I do see like a couple of like black folks walking by, and they just look like they got things to do.
Right.
Life doesn't seem happier because every day seems like a problem.
Right.
And I was just like, I don't see that in other people's face, and just like, and I was thinking to myself, this is like probably a constant thing for Black people or people of color or everywhere you go. It's just like you feel like you always have to deal with certain problems all the time. You can't live a life that's like comforting and you don't have no worries.
Right.
And so I started thinking, and then the whole subject, this is before like the whole like Make America Great Again. I had always had this weird like confusion when people were saying like, ask the questions like, so if you could go back to time, what would be the best time? And I was like, now is the best time.
Right. The future?
Yeah. And that's why I would go like, people
funny.
always say like the 50s, we love the 50s.
Right.
And the golden age, and the things were easy and great. Suburb life was.
Right.
And that's like coming from Detroit too. And that's like the hype of like that era too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, no, like now is, and like there's so many, like we still have a lot to do.
Yeah.
And, like,
Right.
But back then was just worse. And why do you keep saying this?
Right.
And I got the idea of like this, pretty much the people are living in a life where they have no kind of worries or everything is great for them, but not thinking, okay, what about somebody else who don't have that same privilege or
Right.
idealistic? And so, and then for me, and that set on that day, I was always felt like as an artist where I was trying to be something that I wasn't, trying to confine to what artists should be and who I should be. And at that moment, I was like, no, I need to stop being who I want to be.
Right.
And I saw myself always kind of like fitting into what people thought, what was commercialized and stuff like that. And that really hurted me as an artist. And she kind of put it like somebody who's probably tribal coming, like she's dyeing her hair a certain color, she's wearing Western clothing. And that's why you see like the guy who's a tribal guy, he's new, coming from the jungle, coming to a society where it's just like, oh, this is already established, like society. I have to kind of blend in, and her is just her way of like drinking tea, and she's wearing a Western society clothes, and her face doesn't look happy.
Right. So is she supposed to be someone who is kind of out of place, trying to assimilate?
Yes, to kind
Okay.
of fit into society, because that's how I felt.
Right.
Where I was just like, I'm trying, all my life I've been trying to fit in society and trying to fit in. And I
just
think at
doesn't
the
feel
moment I
right.
was just like, it's not for me. I have to state my voice. I have to,
Right.
because it was just like, I felt lost. Even to this day, I don't feel like I belong in San Francisco, or I never felt overall, never felt like I fitted somewhere.
Right.
Huh.
And
So even when you go like to Haiti, do you feel out of
oh
place
yeah, in Haiti now, I'd probably be like, look at this American.
Well,
like,
that's
we're
the
trying
thing.
to- yeah.
I think what it is, because I understand, because I've moved around so much. I lived in Nicaragua for 2 years, and moving around and being multicultural and bilingual and just growing up in different, and it's similar to you as well. It's like you never feel quite like you belong in one
Right.
or the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
So you're always kind of like in this limbo of like, that doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. And
Right.
Yeah.
it's also like you feel right in your studio, probably. You feel
Yeah.
this is home. It's like, and I don't know if that's why we kind of become artists, because that's where we feel right. Like
Right.
that's
Yeah.
where I feel comfortable in my studio, because everything else kind of doesn't make sense, or you never quite feel like
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
right anywhere else.
Yeah. I in my artwork, I always have these like two underlining narratives, and they're usually it's the idea of getting lost and finding home,
Yeah.
and just the storylines that you can talk about people and their experience of ever being lost in life or ever finding home. And it's
Yeah.
always it's rarely an actual place, and more of like a group of people is usually home, you know. And even if you and I always find it interesting when people, if you talk about home as like a child, you can get like the happiest moments or the darkest storylines,
Yeah.
you know. And it's home can mean so much, and getting lost can be a positive or a negative as well. You can feel lost, wherever you're living, or you can be happy that you're getting lost, that you're leaving home and finally figuring out what you're going to be.
Yeah, that's very true, because I always felt like maybe my only home was through my art.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that's cool, because that kind of you feeling like trying to find where home is pretty awesome.
Yeah, even if I go back to Miami and see my family, I feel like an outsider.
Right.
It's just like, this is a place I've always been, and then now I just don't feel. But it's just like, and at the same time, I've never been a person who liked favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have a favorite city. I don't have a favorite, like, color, whatever. Because I love the idea, like, I can love all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's why I always explore that. Like, in this image is, like, the background is San Francisco, but the skylight in the back is Detroit.
That's crazy.
I always like to incorporate the cities I live and I love.
That's
if
awesome.
it's New York or Detroit or it's Miami or in Haiti, and put all these, because it's a surreal world. So in my surreal life, in mine, is all these cities combined together.
Right.
Because that's probably my home.
Yeah.
I'm creating this ideal place, which is my comfort.
Right.
It's all these things.
Yeah, the pigeon on the bottom left, is that San Francisco pigeon or Detroit pigeon?
That's a San Francisco pigeon.
The Detroit pigeons are frozen.
That was our my art school in high school in Miami. Mascot was a pigeon.
Really?
Because we was an art school and we had no mascot. So it was in downtown Miami and Neuro School of the Arts, and there was pigeons everywhere. So that became our mascot.
Oh, self-titled.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Nice. That's super cool. And on another note of the painting, it's painted extremely well. I mean, I love how this bull or ox or whatever it is. It's, I don't know why, I'm just really into like this section in general. I love like the leaves and
The
shadows on the
that's
bull. And
one of my favorite too, and like my whole series is just a lot of that. Like leaves, and I'm doing more animals. And I'm gonna do like this big horse.
I've been wanting to paint a horse.
Yeah, me too.
It's there's an artist. Do you know Feral Kid? His Instagram handle is Feral Kid on Instagram, but he's like a Brazilian painter. His name is João Rouse, and he does these amazing. He works with acrylic, so he does acrylic and I think graphite on paper and then puts it on panel.
Nice.
And the finish is just amazing. Like, you can't, like, you're staring at it trying to figure out what his medium is, and it's not until you read that you're like, oh my god. But he does these horses that have a bunch of garb on them.
Oh yes.
And
see, how come I don't remember names? As soon as you put
there's
up an
only
image,
a few.
like,
I'm the same exact. Everyone that listens to the podcast knows. So if someone says someone's name, I'm like, no idea who you're talking about.
But see how he drapes all this.
Yes.
Like,
I want to do something similar to that, actually.
yeah.
Well, not like that, but the horse. I want just like an imagery of like a black horse.
Right.
What was the saying? Well, I'm like, for some reason I'm obsessed with horses, but I don't care to ride on anything or. I just like the imagery of
Yes.
the horse.
They're very like regal and very majestic looking.
And then I remember like
and powerful.
Well, we were watching what was it, a film festival, and it was like in the gay community, what would I be? Because there's like a lot of things, like if you're a bear, you're an otter, there's all these animals. So where's the black person? And then I think in the film they say like so you'll be like a stallion, a stallion. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna paint that. So that's like one of the paintings I want to paint.
That's hilarious.
That's crazy too, because it's like that in the gay community, you're also kind of like titled.
Yeah.
And it's again like I didn't even think of that, because it's like, where do I fit in? You know, like that's just another thing where you're kind of lost.
And that's been my whole life. It's
That's
almost
crazy.
like in the same way, because I also didn't want to, I don't like labels or anything. I don't want to categorize myself in a certain group or something. And that's why I always, throughout my whole life, I was always in the group of friends I had, make sure it was diverse. And I was a person I can bounce from one group of friends to another group of friends, because that's who I always wanted to be, because I wanted to understand different people, different cultures. And by pigeontoling me in one certain group, it defeat myself from growing as a person. And on top of that, I don't like to hang out with people just like me, and I want to be. And so, yeah, and that's a big part of also my paintings too. Is just like making sure different group of people are represented, showcased in the positive light, or making sure this is a subject matter that nobody talks about because this group is excluded in society. But yeah, it's always been something I was, even though like I was always finding groups that I wanted to belong to, but I would make sure I would always push myself away from them, even back in like school. You know what, like cafeteria, the idea. And I think I was talking with Mike about it, and
shout out to Mike.
And that like the whole cafeteria scenario, this is when you pick who the group of people you are, where it's sitting them in cafeteria, so you let the whole school know.
Just thinking about that gives me anxiety. Because my parents always put me in like smaller groups. So like, for example, in middle school, she would make sure I was like in a group of just like studious children. And like for high school, I went to this high school called Tech High, which was based off of technology. It was I was the first to graduate. My year was the first graduating from that high school, and we were based on a college campus, and there was 60 graduating seniors my year, and 3 girls. And it was like I was miserable, but it was like just I never got to experience like that high school, but I experienced it in middle school, and I hated it. I always was like, this sucks. Like, who do I sit with? You know, I'm just gonna stand here.
But luckily, my high school, we didn't have a cafeteria.
Yeah, we didn't either.
Yeah, it was an art school where just like you bring your own food, or you go out to eat because it's downtown, so you have options. But it was still that kind of like, so who people like, come and have lunch with us, or come eat with us, and nobody knows, but I sat alone. I made sure I ate every single time lunch by myself.
Really?
If it was like I would go on the floor, or I'd go in a classroom, or I go off campus and eat by myself.
Wow.
And that was a part of me that was like, I like this aloneness, but at the same time, like,
It's lonely.
Yeah, I'm a loner, but I like being with people.
Yeah. I did that for high school.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And I was always like, people come and stay with us, but I was just like, no. And then it's like at the same time, like, I guess I didn't want to be like, that was like the standing part of like, if you having lunch with these group of friends, then you must be, that's your top friends. So I'm like, no, you guys all are, because I was like friends with everybody in my school, in my class. And so I didn't want.
That's crazy. Especially in like high school, where like popularity is the currency, you know, and being social is so important, and to choose to like distance yourself or not be friends with just one, to like the social current, you know, like the currency of being popular isn't is pushed against. I don't even know if I even thought about that as a high schooler. I mean, I was friends with everyone that I liked. You know, but I don't think I thought of it. I wasn't. You seemed like you were much more aware about what your actions you were doing. I was just kind of being a high schooler. That's crazy. It's interesting.
I was also figuring myself too, and I didn't want any kind of like group of friends to determine how I was gonna be as a person or anything. I think having that alone time kind of helped me figure a lot of things about myself.
That's cool. That's interesting. I've never even thought about that. I mean, I just find it interesting because there might be people that are listening. They're like, oh yeah, I was exactly the same, but I've never even thought about that idea until now. which is cool. I mean, that's us as artists. We are constantly, I think, first of all, I think we're very empathetic. So we see people and what they might be going through. And I feel like we kind of ingest that and really put ourselves in their predicament or in their shoes or whatever, you know, and try to understand those things, I think is like a very common thing with artists. And to not think of that, I mean, at the same time, I don't really think of high school that much either. So maybe that's why.
And I don't think you should. My experience is like more art school. I think is like I grew up from like art middle school. I went to art middle school, art high school, and art college. That I remember like going to take like my SAT, and I had to go to my regular home school, and that was like kind of like eye opener. I'm like, oh gosh, I couldn't imagine that was like my brother's like homeschool too, and it's just like, oh, that was a reality check to kind of experience like going through a metal detector and stuff like that. Just like, oh, this is real school.
I don't even know if that's real school.
Well, that school also had like the highest pregnancy rate. And
that's always.
I
can't even imagine when I think back now about like students that I went, or you know, kids I went to high school with, and they were pregnant in high school.
Yeah.
And I remember a girl when I was in 7th grade got pregnant, and I think about that now, and I'm like, I can't even comprehend that.
Yeah, I felt like I was very lucky to like have that kind of open. Being in art school is just like where I think throughout the whole time, even in my high school, I always talk about how my middle school was the biggest thing. For anybody who came from my school, it's like we were very privileged in a way, and made us like completely the people we are now, and the artists. Like when I went to art college, like I was already like in a higher level than most because what they taught us in the school.
Right.
And it was just like, yeah, it felt like a little more in this kind of world. Like we grew up really quick too, because they were teaching us in college level, and our school was
cool.
shared with the college campus. And so there was a lot of AP courses, but then that's why they kind of took things away, like cafeteria and stuff like that, which they probably didn't have the budget for or something, or the floors. I don't know. But it's just like we were coming from like middle school to straight to college. That's how I felt. Like there was no high school experience, and everybody felt like we all treated each other like equals in a way.
Wow.
And it's like a performing arts school, so they had like dancers, theater,
so cool.
and music, and it's like one of the schools where like at a certain point, I think at the end of the day, everybody's in their art period. So you do your liberal arts in the beginning of the day, and then all of a sudden everybody's doing their arts. And
that's crazy.
It prepared you, for me at least, like for life than anything else.
Right. I don't even, when I first heard about high schools being like art schools, was like on MTV after I graduated when I was like 19. I was watching something on MTV, and this kid, it was like a reality, I don't know what it's called. They would like make kids do things. I don't know.
Was it True Life?
Yeah,
it might have been.
I loved True Life.
Yeah.
Or there was one where they would like, some kid would want to be prom king or something like that. And so they would make him into, or whatever. And so there was one where this kid, he was like, oh yeah, we go to this art school. I'm like, wait, what? For high school? That's an option?
I think I was a kid when I saw like the movie Fame was like my high school in a way, where just like dancers are dancing in the hallway, practicing, and people practicing their lines. I was like, that can never happen. I'm like, whoa, and I'm here.
That sounds great. I've never gone to like art school, so that was always like this far-fetched thing that I was like, that's crazy if you get to do that. Was it going through so much art schooling, did you get frustrated from people teaching you a certain way, like, or was your experience more like, here are your like tools, and
by the time I got to college, it was a little frustrating because I felt like I had to be taught and be pushed more, which I felt like sometimes they were taking it easy on me. I got a lot of like, oh, this is great, sir, this is great. I'm like, then what I need to improve on.
Right.
And I was going into illustration. I had an illustration degree, and I was in the illustration department. And that was the same time when I was applying for college, I didn't know where I fit in too. I was like, am I going to be a fine artist or am I going to be, well, actually I was going straight to being a fine artist until the school, CCS in Detroit, was like, the recruiter kind of said, oh, you should try this illustration thing. I'm like, I knew nothing about illustration.
Right.
And it's like, well, this is more of the commercial side, and your style kind of fits illustration. And then I was like, okay, I'll try that out. And I was in the illustration department, and I felt like I wasn't getting a lot of the push I needed. And so I would have to go take all the courses in the fine arts department. I do things completely different from like silk screen, printmaking, just regular painting classes.
Right.
Just to get other feedbacks from other departments. And
we've got that a lot from guests where they did the illustration thing and then all of a sudden they go and they'll see like a fine art, like they'll go to like the fine art class and all these fine art students are doing like things and they're like, I want to do what they're doing. Like, they're like pushing themselves.
Yeah. Because and that's like the why, which I appreciate more of. Illustration was great for business sense and how to brand yourself. And at the same time, maybe that kind of took me away because like, now you have to have a style.
Right.
I was like, no, I'm not ready for style yet.
Yes, Sergio. He kind of had this similar story. He was illustration major, and then he, at the end of his schooling, was like, I enjoy fine art more. So he just, I mean, he's not here today, so we should stop talking.
Well, I feel like art school, like, and like I always think of like, okay, if you win the lottery, right, you get all the money you want, what would you do with it? And I feel like, first of all, it would pay my bills or whatever, but I would also love to go to school.
First of all, make it rain.
Yeah.
But I would love to go to like school and just take classes of what I want to learn, like not necessarily, and I don't want to get a degree or anything, like I just want to take classes of things that I'd love, that I find interesting, not towards anything, but it could be a little bit of everything, and just go to school forever because you can never stop learning, right? And that's like, I've always liked that idea, not to say I have a master's in this one thing, but I just find all these things interesting. Why not learn them all?
Yeah, because I think the number one thing I felt like going to art school should have been is more how to teach you to be a business person.
Oh, yes.
Yourself. Like the whole, and I appreciate like artists who don't need school and just self-taught, because that's pretty much it. Because like you can't really go to and learning from like my high school experience is like you really can't teach somebody how to be a certain artist.
Right.
They're just helping you to use the tool.
Right.
That you can do, like how you say, anywhere. You can go to a class and here's a tool, like I'm going to a printmaking class, and here's a tool, you giving me accessibility, and then I'm learning how to create, and you're helping me to create what I want to do.
Right.
And I felt like sometimes schools, and especially in college, is like art college, like they're trying to focus on trying to help you be a certain artist or help you whatever, but it's just like I want to learn to be more, teach me the business skills, like teach us. That should be like a 3-year course, like yearly thing if I'm going to be here, how to brand myself to be an artist in the world and not be a starving artist.
Exactly. Well, I think that there should be classes on, like how they have Excel and classes like that there needs to be like art Excel. Ways to apply all, like you said, the business stuff, but for an individual person, like.
Yeah. I mean, we had a weird conversation yesterday, kind of similar, but different, where even just high school in general, we were like, the people that are good at math, they should take them, and it should be like almost like an elective. We're like, oh, you're really good at math, keep pursuing that hard, and here's the electives. And then, but they should be teaching you how to pay your taxes and like how to, like they used to have what's the class called? I can't remember. They used to have like a class where they would teach you kind of like politics in a way where you could understand how it affects, and so you can build like what you think is correct and all these things. And it's like, those are the things, like how to function as a human being in the world seems more important to me than being like, doing geometry. Cause it's like, I mean, unless you're like really pursuing it to become a mathematician or something or some in that line, in that direction.
Especially if you go into like architecture. I can
Yeah,
understand
exactly.
you doing, but, like, it should not be brought in like a course I need to take as a
Yeah.
basic course.
Yeah, like the most math we're going to use is very basic.
Yeah.
Like
Like, you just need one math course. I'm like,
Yeah.
do I?
Pass long division, you're like, all right, you're good for math.
Yeah.
Like you can now
Like,
focus on what you want to do.
And I think they give you the option too, and especially in art college. It's like, okay, so if you're interested in this, I think I took a lot of like cultural semiotics class, and a lot I wanted to do more like the physics and psychiatry classes and stuff like that, because that's if I'm dealing with social issues and I'm very interested in like human behavior, and I would like to take these courses, and they kind of help you kind of navigate like you picking your kind of courses. And then there's also sometimes like you have to take a math class,
Right.
kind of thing, which I understand. And but
Yeah, it's tough. I
Yeah.
mean, but so did you but you enjoyed college?
oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
Okay. We have this
for-
conversation all the time. Me
Yeah,
and
for
Sergio.
another aspect than what it was. I think for me, I enjoyed the college experience, just the people, and
Right.
the city. That was like the biggest, and the people. I always say like some of my friends now today who moved from Michigan to here, I still hang out. So
That's
I think
awesome.
some of the best people I've met came from Detroit. I would say that all the time, like, because I've learned a lot from them as much.
Right.
And everything else, yeah.
That's cool. So you still have friends that are now in the Bay Area.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, that's nice.
So, and then and also, one of my good friend who I've been working with like the music videos and stuff. He came from Detroit and he lives in LA, and I'm still like in contact with him. And I think a lot of my closest friends tends to be like still from Michigan, from the school experience.
Oh, I had another question about your painting. Let's go back to that real quick. I just was curious how long like a painting like this takes you. Like in like actual paint time, I
That
guess.
one I don't know. It's like it was whenever I can have time to paint.
You just
Usually
make-
in the first paintings, it takes me a longer because I need to it's like that guideline to how I'm gonna portray everything else. 'Cause
Right.
everything starts to fly by really quick. But that one felt like it took me the whole year, but it was like maybe an hour or maybe a
Right.
day of painting, but then I want to touch it for like 3 weeks or something,
Right.
or at one point I didn't touch it for like 3 months. So, but if I would have, I did one similar to that right after, and it took me like a month or two.
Okay, that makes sense.
So if I was
still-
working straight on without any distraction, it probably would take me like maybe a month and a half.
Wow, that's still a good chunk of time.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you do cram a ton of imagery into your work, so that makes sense.
And a 3x4 foot painting is not a small painting.
No, that's pretty big. That's crazy. I also kind of wanted to talk about another painting, if we can. It was. Wait, can I click on it? I'll just click on this one. This one, because I'm so into this one. This one, and let me see if I can. Less Than Human.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. And it's, I just really, is this a pretty new painting?
I painted this probably 2015 2016 for my 2017 show.
Do you find solo shows like daunting, or do you enjoy?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's probably the only thing I want to do in
Just
my whole
do
life.
solo shows.
Yeah, because that definitely, if like I would say, like if you really want to get to know who I am,
Right. That
come
makes
to
sense.
my shows, and then my solo shows, and then I put everything I am into it, and
Right.
I really do make sure every single piece is well thought of, idea wise and everything.
That makes sense. I mean, especially for you, where you're so narrative, and you're trying to tell this story. Especially like group shows, a lot of times you have to like forfeit some of the creative, juices, because they have a idea of how to make the show cohesive with other artists. So they will have some theme or something, and then you have to.
I think the group shows really do kill me because I like to kind of separate my personal work with all the commercial work I've done, and so like the gallery space feels like the one place I can be myself. So if it's like a group show, now I'm like put into a box. Now I have to do something for the show. If it's themed.
I see.
Like even if it's something simple as like a 12 by 12 show, I'm like, oh, now you limit me to this, and I have to focus on that. And so that changed the whole mindset of, even though I'm just doing my work, I'm still.
That's difficult though, because one of the hardest things is working with galleries, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, I feel like galleries want to get an idea of who you are, like how you work with them. And the way you do that is by getting into group shows and then hopefully getting a relationship with these people and getting a solo show. So that process must be frustrating for you if that's the way that it works for you.
Like it was like the opposite for a lot of shows. I always start off as a
solo. Oh, well, that's good.
And I started doing group shows, which some of them I like, but it's just like when it comes to the theme, it's just like usually the themes never fit my work.
Yeah.
And so I have to like, okay, now I have to go more commercial aspect.
So do you usually approach galleries like through email, and you're like looking for solo shows?
This one, the one I'm working on now with Art Attack, was the first, I think in a long time I approached a gallery. I was like, I love your space, I like you guys, you're right by me, I want to show it you guys. And they're like, and I knew two of the friends, and they kind of helped me out too. I went to, that's how I found out about the space, was one of my friends was showing, and I was like, oh, I love this space. Like, yeah, I'll let you contact you with the owner. And then just like, it's like, yeah, just email me. I think it was like the manager of and then I email back like, I want to show with you guys.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, we love your work. Yeah, we'd love to have you.
That's cool.
Kind of thing. And then with like galleries like Spoke Art, I think they found me through before they even opened a gallery or anything.
Oh, really?
I was showing a solo show at a gallery that used to be in San Francisco.
Was it Gauntlet?
No, I used to show at Gauntlet until they're gone.
That's where I first saw your stuff.
Oh,
I saw it at Gauntlet, and I was like, oh, who's this guy? He's like really dope. And
this gallery was a medicine agency.
Huh.
It was at, so that show was in 2010. And it was in like North Beach, Chinatown-ish. And it was like it was a great gallery. It was showing a lot of big artists from like Mike Giant and all these people. And that was like, I think that was my first solo show in San Francisco.
That's
and
cool.
then I remember Ken came to the show and saw, not the, actually it wasn't the solo show. It was after, it was one of those things, I did a solo show there, and then I started doing like little group shows, and it was like a small, another like 12 by 12.
Right.
And he saw one of my piece there, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna do a show. And this is when he was doing like shows like at Space Gallery and all this before he opened up Spoke Art. And I started doing like the Life of Critic and all those kind of film shows. And at that point, like Life of Critic, my favorite show,
movie,
one of my favorite movies. So I was like, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And I can go to like the commercial and do something completely opposite and a lot more friendlier and nice. And then from there, when he opened his gallery, I was like one of the first artists solo to do that. And then I continued doing more like group shows with them.
Can I ask you a random question? How was it working with Gauntlet Gallery? No, it
was fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard like mixed reviews. I was curious because I was just curious.
Well,
you don't have to throw them under a bus or anything. I was just wondering because
no, I was always okay with them.
But they also, I don't think, had many solo shows,
no,
right?
I was pushing to like having, that was a gallery I didn't do any solo show with.
Yeah.
I started doing a lot of just the small.
Yeah, I don't think
stuff.
I think they had like 2 people shows, but I don't
'Cause it
remember
was
their.
pretty hard to keep the space and to keep.
Right.
Well,
and
that's
he's
a-
coming into like the middle of like this bloom that's happening in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Right.
And to be afloat with everything, I think they were trying to do
Mm.
as much to sell than anything else.
Well, it's
Okay.
just frustrating, like, because I remember when I first wanted to be an artist, there seemed to be so many possibilities in San Francisco, and it seemed like, oh, there's so many galleries,
Right.
and now there's like, it just feels like there's like 3 or 2, or
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like it's just like, oh, if you don't get into those 2, then you're like, okay, now what do I do? You know, it's just kind of like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
little frustrating.
Yeah,
'cause
there
it's
definitely
just-
was like a different energy about things. It was like a more creative in the art aspect of things. I mean, tech is definitely, creative in a different way, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of weird because they're more focused on like these kind of Google gallery experience,
Right.
where it's just like light shows and things, but it's all tech art, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
my God, please don't hit, which is okay, but just like don't forget about
Yeah.
these other artists who
yeah,
just traditional
working with
stuff.
their hands. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like also we want to definitely try and make an effort to go more towards Oakland, because it seems like a lot more galleries are popping up there, and it's like, oh, well, that's refreshing. Like you see, like people seem like excited about it, so we definitely
Yeah.
want to try and like figure out what's going on in Oakland,
I
because
know.
it
I
seems
really want to show in Oakland so
yeah,
badly.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was just like, this is where my people's from. In Oakland, if you have, and I forgot, I did show at 2 spaces of gallery, like group shows in Oakland, but I can't remember.
Mm.
And I was like, I need to go start browsing around.
Yeah.
And
And
I-
it-
huh?
It's a matter of just going to the shows too, and just
Yeah.
getting an idea of like
Yeah.
what's happening in that, because
Right.
it's like we have friends in Oakland, and it sounds like there's stuff happening, but we just haven't made the trek over there.
Right.
Yeah, same
Yeah.
here, same here.
On a side. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Huh?
I was gonna bring up the Boots Riley thing because
Oh,
we
yeah.
just watched that movie. Did you watch it at all?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Well, I know Boots.
Yeah,
And I
I
worked in with
I saw that.
when I was doing music videos, and
Yeah.
we did like him and Tom Moreno from
Uh-huh.
Rage Against the Machine. and
Yeah.
They collaborated to do this album.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then after I did the music video, and then Boots wanted to create like a book with all the lyrics and pretty much what this movie's about. But before this movie idea happened, like he wanted to create this kind of like children's book, but it's very political. And we've always been on the same page. Like we're very like everything in our art is political. And so I would meet up with him here in the Bay Area, and he'll come into San Francisco, and we'd talk about ideas. And we started working. He was sending like pages of his lyrics and his songs. He gave me like his whole Coops albums, like every single one.
Wow.
Like, listen to all this. And I didn't know him as Coops before because I'm not from the Bay Area, so I didn't know
Right.
how much of a big impact he was.
Yeah, he's like a staple.
Yeah. And so it's like me hearing all of his albums for the first time and the lyrics, and then I started doing illustration. We started going back and forth. And I don't know what happened. It just like he had to like push that aside. And I think that's maybe he started writing for this movie. And yeah, it's exactly like Sorry to Bother You. It's just exactly from his mind. It's so
Yeah.
yeah.
We
That's
just
cool.
saw that on Friday. Have you? And you guys
Oh, yeah,
liked
yeah.
it?
Oh yeah.
It was so intense.
I loved it. MJ did not like it as much as me, but I like weird. Like
Yeah.
I love, like I just love when people push things almost to the very as far as you can.
Yeah.
I'm like, hell yes.
Because I was like the whole time I was like just my mouth just dropped the whole time. I didn't know what to get from it, but that's what I liked about it.
Yeah.
And it also broke every film rules, which I love, because I'm like anything about breaking any kind of, because art, that's like one of the artsiest movie I've seen in a while.
Yeah, for sure.
And I like that because it just breaks the stereotype of what a movie should be. And having that freedom and being like, hey, I like it because it's different more
Right.
than anything else.
Yeah.
You can
Did you
have
ever
that feeling.
did you ever see the movie Tusk?
Tuss.
Yeah, it's a movie. The guy Kevin Smith, he did like Jay and Silent Bob
Yeah,
and those
yeah.
movies. he does this movie called Tusk, and it kind of like when I watched this movie, it reminded me of Tusk in a way, because they just do the absurd and they don't let you, like, they don't care if you're like, you're not allowed to do that. They're just like, we're going all the way, and you have to accept it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this movie reminded me of. I was like, that was awesome.
Well, it was just crazy. Not any spoiler alerts, but it's like 2/3 into the movie, like towards the end, and it just takes us like weird.
I did not expect this.
Yeah, it's like what's that one, Dawn of the Dead? You ever seen that movie?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like that, where you're like watching the movie, and all of a sudden you're like, well, now there's vampires. I didn't expect that. That's kind of how that movie was. It was like, well, everything is different now.
Yeah.
It was
like
awesome.
Just my favorite thing is just like, I don't want to expect anything. Like, take me by surprise when I least expected.
Yeah, hopefully no one's listening if they're wanting to watch that one, because we might have just ruined that. There's craziness.
No, I don't think we spoiled it.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I also really liked that it was Oakland based.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome. It was very cool to see.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, that's in a weird way. I think because of the tech boom, I've noticed that a lot of movies have all of a sudden started popping up as like San Francisco based, and you're like, oh, I think it's like there's like a transfer of money.
I don't like that. I was like, because now it's putting like the world is like, oh, we want to know more about San Francisco. We want to move. Like, no, let's keep this like how it used to be.
I see.
Put
Yeah.
too much focus on the city. I like.
Yeah, you hear it a
Don't
lot.
make it commercialized.
Yeah, that's
Every
true.
Disney film is in San Francisco.
Right.
If it's like from Planets of the Apes or futuristic, they all go to San Francisco.
Yeah.
What's that one? The one about the meatballs, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. They were in San Fran Jose. And it was like
Combine the two too.
Yeah. But it was just like they had all the hills in it, and I was like,
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
yeah,
I forgot about that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You hear about it with like Austin and those cities where they're like, oh, keep it a secret. And,
Yeah.
and
Because those things do make people migrate really quick.
yeah, and then the things just change so fast. It's so crazy. It really is crazy. I mean, I feel like everyone from San Francisco talks about it, about how it changed.
Yeah,
And
because we haven't adjusted to it because we don't have
No.
time to adjust.
No.
to it
Yeah.
So fast.
And then you also get to reminisce about what it was. So you can compare the two, and you go, I don't want that new thing.
Yeah.
I want the old thing that I fell in love with or whatever. So
I've always been like in the middle where nothing's gonna stay the way it is.
right.
And it's a good thing that is growing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just like there's a part of what San Francisco is. Like, I always encourage people, if you're moving here, especially in the tech industry, keep the authenticity of what San Francisco is.
Yeah.
Remember that part. And
Yeah.
before you either judge somebody who's a little different than you and that
Right.
you understand and try, or the cultural aspect
Right.
of it, and people who was living here before you.
Yeah.
It's just like that kind of respect aspect, and keep a little reminder of what makes San Francisco it is.
I think that's a good way of thinking.
I think I had like that one painting in that series is pretty much talked about.
the one we
that.
were looking at
Yeah.
earlier.
No, it's like kind of like the floating people. So it's like on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fourth one, sorry. On the
this one?
top. Yeah. No. Next
One over.
One. Yeah.
Went
On
over
the
that
side.
way.
Yeah. That one. That one talks about that whole transition.
Make it bigger. This one's called Startup High.
Yeah.
Huh.
In the bottom is I remember I shot that picture in front of like Twitter building, but of course I incorporate more people on their phones,
Right.
and it's kind of like the contrast where that's like gray, kind of like a soulless city,
Huh.
and then on top is like this kind of like very free spirited hippie movement, kind of
Right.
like when a time in San Francisco where nudity was fine, but now it's like gone. It's like people are very uptight and also
Really?
yeah.
Has that?
Yeah.
Well, we go to the city a lot, but I've always, like, I remember one time, I forget what we were doing, and there was just like a naked man just walking down the street. I'm like, oh yeah.
Well, as long as he's covered.
No, he was
probably
completely naked.
Oh.
Yeah, and nobody was like pulling them over, but it might have been during a festival or something
Yeah.
like that, where it was like, okay,
There's
there's
always,
this-
as long as it's a festival, then it's kind of okay.
yeah,
Right.
But without a festival, you can't.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah. Huh.
And that also came from Burning Man too.
Yeah. Yeah. And
and you've gone to Burning Man.
Yeah, I did that painting like literally like right after Burning Man.
that's awesome. This painting's awesome.
So does the work you're working on right now almost look that bottom left
Yeah.
little bit? So
So-
it's like a little snippet into what you're working
And then a
on.
burst of
Kind
color.
of with like the top, but in black and white, and
Yeah.
a little bit of that. So yeah, that's me moving towards like, okay, separating colors, and then now it's like completely black and white.
It's just crazy to me that you're doing that, because I would just be like so lost without color. But I think it's a
Yeah.
good. Well, that's like one of the things that Josh always tries to push me, because I
Challenge
paint
yourself.
exactly,
Yeah.
and it's like you get stuck in your ways, and unless you change it all up, then
Yeah.
you're not going to progress.
I also think it's one of the funnest parts of art is like if you don't know if it's going to work,
Yeah.
that's my favorite thing because you're like nervous, and if you nail it, then it's like the best art feeling. At least for me, it's like,
Yeah.
I did it. Like
I know.
I didn't know if I could, but
Because that's like, I always say, like, I have to be the person to challenge myself and push
Yeah,
myself from
I think so.
outside my comfort zone.
yeah,
So I can't place myself in just doing this for a long period of time, because
Right.
I haven't hit my full potential.
Right.
I think like my next show is my full potential, is because I'm constantly pushing myself to
Right.
get away where I feel comfortable and
Right.
try to do something else. Because I don't think it's like, for me, the subject matter is always going to be the same.
Right.
But the way I paint it, I'm fine to keep changing.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I always think like the painting I just painted is the best painting until my very next painting, and then that's the best painting. And it's just this idea of like just always. It's like sometimes I think of this whatever painting I do, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can get any better. And then 4 years later, I look back at that painting, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not good. Or, that's not
I
that
hate
great.
every single I've done, like probably yesterday.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Like every time I paint a new painting, I'm way better than what I did last time.
right.
So just like, yeah, I understand. Like every time I look at my old painting, I'm like, oh gosh, what? This-
Yeah.
I don't even like my artwork to begin with. It's just like, but seeing something that's like even like a month ago,
Right,
it's like,
for sure.
oh.
Yeah, yeah. I think every artist feels that way, and
Yeah.
I think I always tell people that's like good, because that just means you're pushing yourself forward.
Yes, definitely.
And I hope my best painting is like right before I die. I'm just like hey, last stroke, and then I'm like nailed it.
There you go.
Someone was saying that there was a like a show of like the last painting every artist did.
Oh,
Like the whole
that's
show was like
Really?
all these dead artists, and they all did like, and there was one where there was just like a blue line down it, because that was like
He died at his
Yeah.
painting.
Yeah.
at his easel, and
That's
you're
crazy.
like, whoa, that's kind of crazy and awesome. Like he
Yeah.
died doing exactly what he wanted
That's
to be doing.
nuts.
Actually, I don't want to die doing painting. I want to die in a tropical beach.
How about you just paint the tropical beach?
Yeah. Okay. There you go. That sounds better.
A mix of
Painting on
both.
a beach,
Yeah.
drinking a margarita or something,
Yeah.
and then just die on the beach. That's painting. Forest.
Yeah.
Tropicalness.
Nice lighthearted
With
topic.
with this piece, what's the eye on the hand reminds me of Pan's Labyrinth. Have you seen Pan's Labyrinth?
yeah,
with
yeah.
Right there.
Where is that? Oh,
on the
yeah.
right?
I'm really into this top left figure. I like all the way the light's hitting her.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And that was like the biggest part of why I wanted to move to the city, this idea of this free spirit artsy city. And that's why this was like very like kind of like
There's another one right there.
frustrated me about the city, is how much like that scene was going away.
Yeah.
And I wanted to like showcase like this can still be this beautiful, colorful place.
Yeah.
And not make it so gray. And I think that's why I'm going to gray, because like when you see like these like Victorian houses in San Francisco, it used to be beautiful bright colors, and
Right.
now they're all gray and white.
Right.
They're all painting to make it modern,
Right.
gray and white.
Yeah.
And just like, this is what the city is becoming, very
Right.
black and white. What happened to this colorful in between?
Yeah. And I think it goes back like how we were saying about Detroit, how the natives are fighting back and
Yeah.
making it Detroit,
Mhm.
and making. I think San Francisco is kind of doing the same.
I
Yeah.
like that
I
idea.
think they're meeting in the like tech, like forced their way in, and it got really, like a lot of tension between the two for a long time. And I think
Mhm.
slowly people are becoming part of San Francisco,
unified kind of
and also exactly, and becoming San Francisco.
I like the idea of having of artists fighting back though, because so many artists are just moving away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like and I haven't heard anybody say that since all this is happening. Like there's not many people wanting to fight, and I do appreciate that.
And
Because-
I struggled with it too.
Mhm.
And it's just like, oh my God, I don't belong here anymore.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of artists think about that too, but it's just like, you can't leave. I think for a lot of people, that's why I admire a lot of people in Detroit too. It's like, it's an easy way out.
Right.
And I admire the people who stay and like, no, I'm going to stay
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
bring back the city. And that goes for a lot of cities. It's just
Yeah.
like, don't kick me out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always think that I had this conversation with someone else where I was like, all the artists that are from San Francisco or the Bay Area that are sticking it out, I'm like, those are the ones that are like hustlers and survivors, and
Yeah.
they're not they just push hard. And you see it too, like all the people that are sticking around, I'm like, they're all the ones that are figuring it out. They're not quitting. They're and going somewhere
And
else.
it definitely took a toll on me. I think this is the first year where I was just like, from last year, which is all like, okay, I guess I have to go back to doing graphic design and work for a company or a startup. And I was pushing myself to like do all these things to survive in the city. And it's just like, I don't belong in this world. Like, and I don't even think they want me because you have to be a certain mold of character. And on top of just like, I don't think they will hire me because they don't see, I always thought, and I see it a lot of times, like they see my artwork, it's like, oh, we don't see you as a graphic designer.
Right.
Or we don't even see a black person being a graphic designer because that's not the stereotype that you really see hiring in a certain field. And so I had that kind of battle within myself, like why am I even bothering, because I'm not going to be accepted in this community in general. And I think it was like one time when I do a lot of commercial work and like commission work and murals and stuff like that in the city, and I understand when somebody sees my work and they see like as a black artist, like, oh, he's going to do black art. It's like, no. And I remember I was doing a mural for a restaurant, and there's two partners. And if I didn't hear it from one of their partner who wanted me to do the mural, but the other partner was like, well, his work, and it's as simple as like just doing trees and stuff. And the other partner had to defend me by saying like, it was like, well, he does like kind of black art, he wouldn't do this. And he's like, no, if he can do this, his personal work, he can definitely do simple things as like a tree. And that's how it tends to be in my career, especially for a black artist. Like, okay, he won't be able to do something as simple as a graphic design or a logo because he doesn't do those things.
Wow.
Because look at, he's focused on this.
That's such a weird mindset.
Yeah. And that tends to be, a lot of people don't recognize that
Right.
you're automatically judged by the one thing.
Yeah. I mean, even just like the idea that your artwork tells your story, it in any other category would just be that, right? So like if MJ tells her story through her art, it's that, but like to title it as like black artwork, if you're telling your story, that's kind of weird.
It really sets you back and limits yourself what you can do.
It's just your story is what you're telling.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't it shouldn't be titled black art or whatever. It's a narrative art of you telling your experiences.
Story, yeah.
So,
and a lot of people
that's
don't
weird.
look at it that way. And that was like a very frustrating time where I couldn't get anything, is because I was placed in that category.
Right. I heard something recently, someone hired for a movie, they hired a black female actress to play a leading role of like a story, like it's like a, I don't know, like Jack and the Beanstalk kind of, you know, like a very well known story.
Yeah.
And someone was saying, "What do you think about that?" And they were like, "Is she a good actress? Will she do good?" Well, that's all I give a fuck about.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about the
Yeah.
rest.
Yeah.
Like, don't make it about something else. Just watch the movie. If you like it, you
Yeah.
like it. If you don't, you don't. But base it off of her performance. Was it done well or not?
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to make it more than it is. And I was like, yeah, that's spot on. Like, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird mindset
It'll
people
get
have.
to that point where people just look at skills than anything else. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Gosh. But yeah, I mean, this has been the podcast. We'll end it on a weird note. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, if anyone wants to see his work, you can find it on Instagram at Serge_Gay_Junior. I think. I'm trying to read it there, but I can't see it.
I can't remember. I think it's underscore Gay Junior. Or just Serge Gay Junior.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
Because it's different on my Twitter. I couldn't remember what that was. An underscore gay.
And then your website is
SergeGayJunior.com.
Yep. And we'll also post pictures of the paintings we talked about on our social media and at you, so people will be able to find you way easier.
And your upcoming show is in February?
February 7th.
Okay.
Awesome.
We'll be there. I'm excited.
Oh, yes, please come,
be awesome.
everybody.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool, too, that you're going to have a show near where you live. I've never done that before.
I know. I can just walk down the hill from where I am with pieces.
That's awesome. I mean,
It's not going to happen, but
I mean, but even when you go to the show, you just get drunk and then walk home.
yeah.
But yeah, so that's awesome. And is there anything else you have coming up or want to?
Just projects. Hopefully, we're trying to get a movie series picked up with
that's
my
cool.
buddy Mastosky in LA. We've been working on this. We worked on a series pilot, and we've been pitching it with different networks. So
That's awesome. What's that
hopefully
called?
go into so it's North of Neon. You can watch the pilot on YouTube. Just type North of Neon.
I'll definitely check
And
that out.
I'm going into. I've been doing a couple of like creative directing, art directing with Matt,
That's
with our
cool.
music videos, and we worked a couple of series, like online series, and so we try and go in that route also. So, yeah.
Nice. That's cool. Well, thank you for doing this. Thank you, Mike, for joining
Thank you
us.
very much.
And Serge. So yeah, this has been Waiting to Dry. If you're still listening, fuck off.
I was so dehydrated. I need water. I drank too much coffee.
I know. I was trying to hint towards